Hey folks, Doug Blake with Body Design University. Welcome to another weekly study. And today we're going to go over studying in our weekly study. So it's going to be a refresher. I'm not going to use a PowerPoint on this. I want to go over a couple of things with you relatively briefly. We need kind of a reset, I think, given the amount of comments that I've seen in the actual Facebook group. Lots of folks, I definitely understand, feel your pain when it comes to feeling like you're rushed to get prepped to study for your test. So what I wanted to do was just kind of help you um, move through the study process and how you study. There's a couple of things to keep in mind. How you study is based on any number of variables. There's two really main variables I want to kind of go over with you today that's going to help you out. First off, you got to take a deep breath. For those of you that literally have given yourself, for whatever reason, doesn't matter what the reason, you've got 1 week, you got 2 weeks to get prepped, or you're on a particular chapter. I see this quite a bit. I really, really feel your pain. Just last year, I'd gotten COVID, and it wasn't really that bad per se. But have you heard of COVID brain? Have you heard of that one? Maybe some of you have had it. I'm always in the books. I'm doing a lot of academics. I was taking some classes, some post-grad classes at the time, and holy cow, that was an incredible, not in a good way, but just so you know, it was incredible. My brain just would not work. And so I get it, of course, when people are talking about going through the textbook and they're on chapter whatever, and they're just going, I feel defeated is a great term I see in the Facebook group. I feel defeated. I'm not getting the stuff. And as soon as I hear that, I really just want to reach out and help you to understand. Reach out, shake you, tell you to take a deep breath, and help you to understand. I've seen this for decades. Decades. I've been teaching this material. And I'm going to tell you, it all comes down to two basic things. Number one, what is your learning style? How does, and if you don't want to use the concept of learning style, there's more than enough experts, really brilliant folks out there that say the whole learning style is a load of pahootie. I'm being nice, of course. And then there are some other really smart, brilliant people who say, no, learning style is actually pretty important. At the end of the day, if you scratch below the surface of the concept of learning style, it comes down to how does your brain, you have a unique way in which you are able to input data and information into your gray matter. It's different than mine, okay? You have multiple ways in which data and information gets into your brain, right? Your auditory wise, visually, reading. Okay, so I don't think smell is part of it, but if it was, I'd be great at that. The point is there's different ways that your brain inputs data and information. Well, that's without a doubt. It's not, and that's not anything that anybody's going to have a conversation over and have any critical issues with. So the fact of the matter is since we know there's different ways that people are able to not just access data, but actually get it to be plugged into their brain in a way that they can understand it and access it. Since we know that's the case, then we have to definitely look at how we can get that information or use that information in our particular unique context. So if you're watching and you know that every time you read, for instance, I got my NASM book. Here I am reading, and I just opened up to page 359, and it's on circumference measures. So let me go ahead and I'll just give you a real quick example of this. Here I am on page 357, anthropometry and body composition measurements. Okay, so we're talking about biometrics, right? Taking measurements. And I start reading, and I'm reading through it, and I get through one paragraph, get through another paragraph. And as I'm reading through, my mind starts to wander, and I'm starting to think about that protein shake that I have to drink. And all of a sudden, what just happened? I just basically wasted the 10 minutes, 15 minutes that I spent doing something that is not a very effective way for me to get information inputted effectively into my brain. And that's by reading it. Some of you, maybe a lot of you, you simply cannot read without having your brain wander somewhere else. You would not be on the outskirts of the bell curve. You are actually part of the main component of the bell curve when it comes to how to study. Reading is not studying. Reading, okay, number one, reading is not studying. Let me reiterate that. Hang on. Number one, reading is not studying. Do not get frustrated. Please do not get frustrated when you are only reading and you're not learning anything. Let me say it again. You'll notice I'm pausing. Reading is not studying. Studying is studying. Studying is a methodology to input information and data so that your brain can access it in some way, shape, or form for later use. What you're looking to do, if you're studying for the test, NASM test, is to get the data in, stick in there well enough to where you can spit it out on a test. Once you're done with the test and you've passed the test, now you can move on with your life. Now you can move on with utilizing some of the data and information. So remember, reading is not studying. That normally cures half of the problems that students have when it comes to, quote, studying. Do not lie to yourself. You're probably not studying, okay? If you are reading through the book, I hope I'm not hurting your feelings, but if you're reading through the book and you're halfway through and you've gotten all the way through it, and then you go and you take a quiz and you don't do well on the quiz, and you go, man, all that studying, you were not studying. Now, there are some people, okay, I am one of those people. Very rarely do you find people that can actually read and retain fairly well. I probably have a higher above average to read written material and kind of remember it. But even then, I have to read it over and over and over. That is a very inefficient way to do it. So I didn't want to beat that one down too hard. But boy, I'll tell you, if you can get over this idea that you think reading a book, reading stuff online, reading is studying, you are going to be sad. You're going to be sadly mistaken. So please, here is how I follow up with that. Reading is not studying, but reading is what? It's the beginning of studying. In other words, you must read the material. But that's the very beginning of the studying process, which is why you see all these pads. That's about, I would say, that's about as much as you'll need to get through the entire NASM text if you do it the way I do it. So what I do, and what I highly recommend you do, is read, write, and then recite. It's a standard methodology I've used ever since I got out of the Army many years ago. I learned it from a number of people in the military that helped me to understand some certain things about studying. And once I implemented it, it was a game changer. I read it, I rewrite that information. I do it over and over and over and over. And when I'm done with that sheet of paper, no, I don't reread it. I rip it up and I throw it away. It's the physicality of writing that is key. So you read it, it's the physicality of writing. If you say it out loud, for some of you, that can be very effective. And that's why having the chapter audio books for the entire book is very helpful for some folks. So, okay, so what did we just go over? Reading is not studying. Reading is the beginning of studying, but you must write. There is a physicality to the writing. That physicality of writing it helps your brain engage the material, but it is not enough. You've got to do it over and over and over. We call it exposure, right? Exposure to the material. You've got to be exposed to the material over and over and over again. But Doug, I've only got a week. What do you want me to tell you? I mean, that's not feasible for the average human to memorize any given amount of material. Now, look, you could go into the test. I get it. Trust me, I feel your pain. I get it that you only have a week left or 2 weeks left or whatever the case is. That's where this comes in. So this is the Body Design University. This is let me see if I can get it out of the light. That's the CPT exam blueprint study guide for the 7th edition. And look how thin it is. Okay. So basically, you can't study this guy. So you go to a more compressed version or explanation. And that's why we have these. It's designed to help individuals to kind of sift through those areas that perhaps are not going to be as well represented on the test as other areas. Let me just go through this real quick with you, because a lot of folks miss what NASM has really helped you out with. In other words, NASM has given you a guide to tell you that out of the 6 domains that they have, all the chapters are listed in these different domains, but they also tell you the percent of questions that'll be on it. I'm not going to go through the whole thing with you. You can go ahead and download this and take a look at it, but look at this and spend the necessary time. And here's what I want to do. And I'm not going to go through all 23 of these chapters, but what we've done is we've sifted through all the material. And because we have a lot of historical data, a lot of information that comes back to us, we have a pretty good idea of it, not exactly, but kind of what you're going to see on the exam itself. And so in chapter 1, remember what I was saying, there's 2 real main variables. Number 1 is, do you know your learning style, how your brain works to get information into it so that it's accessible at some later point in time. The other is, what are you actually studying? Why are you studying chapter 1 to any great extent? Now, get what I'm saying here. If you've got 1 week to study, you're studying very differently than somebody that actually has 90 days, 120 days to study. Very different, okay? You got to keep that in mind. Put yourself in a situation. Do you have 2 weeks to study? Do not study chapter 1. Why are you studying chapter 1? It's a low priority chapter. It doesn't mean they're not going to ask questions out of it, okay? Chapter 2, low priority chapter. So this is how we help students to pass this darn exam on the first shot, okay? If you have a lot of time to study, then you go with your moderate to high priority chapters first. So chapter 3, chapter 4, moderate. What do we mean by moderate? What do we mean by chapter 6, moderate? Okay, chapter 7, moderate. Chapter 8, ironically enough, on exercise metabolism and bioenergetics, is a relatively low priority chapter. Again, nutrition, moderate. You might see some questions on it. And so we've condensed that all down for you. Chapter 10, supplements, low priority chapter. Again, doesn't mean you're not going to see questions. The question is, how many questions are you going to see? And so chapter 11, for instance, is what is known as a high priority chapter. The point is that we've done a lot of the heavy lifting for you when it comes to honing in on exactly what you should study. If you have the time to study, you study the entire book, but you do it from a priority perspective, and you use the techniques of reading and rewriting. The practice tests, critical. You've got to do practice exams. And so if you're frustrated, and by the way, how do you do practice exams? You take the test, you take the practice test. Don't worry about what you get on it. That's not what they're designed for. They're designed to help you to get the feel for answering that many questions in that time frame. Then you look at every question that you got wrong. Once again, how much time do you have to study? Look at those questions. If you have the time, you literally look at the question, go back into the book, Go back into the textbook. Okay. Every answer you ever need on the NASM exam is literally right in here. It is. Everything you need to know is right in here. If you literally memorize this entire textbook, there's no way you could fail their test. It's just that quite often it's the learning style, it's the study methodology that can be a little bit challenging. So let's get on board and study correctly for your brain. If you don't know how to do that, message me. Okay. I can do an entire study on that for you. The goal is not to leave you floundering. That's why we do this. We want you to get through this material, use the study guides, ask the questions in the group. But boy, you gotta pick up a pencil or pen. Oh, I forgot. Colored markers. I'm going to tell you, when it comes to what do we want to do? We want to memorize. When it comes to memorizing, you've got to make it work for your brain. For me, I like colors. I like different fonts. So I don't just write. My daughter, she writes like a typewriter. I mean, I look at her. She's very proud of it too. So she goes, "Look at my handwriting." And I go, "Well, that's great. Did you learn anything while you were writing like a typewriter?" Whatever works for you. Me? No, I got to write in different. I do crazy things. I got this visual thing going. And that's why colors can be very, very helpful. So write the different colors, use different fonts, draw pictures. At the end of the day, if it helps you to memorize it, that's what you do. That's what you use it. So there you go. This is really all you need. Now, I know some of you are using cue cards, the index cards, whatever. Quizlet is a great tool, but not for everybody. So if it doesn't work for you, then don't waste your time doing it. Efficiency of study time. That's the key. You don't want to be sitting here reading through multiplanar flexibility and then trying to do and go, whoa, and then you're on Venus or you're on Mars for the past 15 minutes. It's like, come on back down to Earth. Stop just reading to try and memorize it. Read a little bit and then rewrite it. You have to be engaged with the material when it comes to studying, effective studying, to be honest with you. So don't just read. By the way, it's great information. I'm just saying, it's really good information. They're the pictures that they have, the information on the side of each page. Come on, they've made it about as easy as you can, or they've made it as efficient, I would say, as you need it to be. Look, we are here to help you. That's why we do this. Again, I've seen a lot of frustration in the group. I feel your pain. I've been there. Trust me. For the most part, most of us have been there. And the information as you go further and further into the fitness industry, if you want to get deeper and deeper, corrective exercise, athletic training, there's a lot of information. What are you going to do? You got to write. Pencil, pen, colors. Really, you'd be surprised that not highlighters, please. Look, if highlighting the material helps you to pass an exam, far be it for me to tell you not to highlight. Here's what I know. Highlighting does one thing. It gets you to reread. Okay, well, what did we just say about reading? Reading is not studying. So if you're just rereading what you highlighted, I hope what you're doing is then rewriting what you highlighted. If that's how you're going to use it, go for it. If what you're doing ain't working for you, you got to change it. Give me a message. Let me know how we can help you additionally with this. You've got a general study guide that can hone you in on the materials that you need to spend a lot of time with. Any questions that you have, that's why we do the weekly studies at Body Design University. Go to our YouTube channel, subscribe check out the materials that are in there as well. And then you can message me as well right below on this particular video. Just let us know how we can help. I want you to pass on your first attempt. If you've already failed, we really want you to pass on the second attempt. If you failed on the second attempt, okay, it's time to. By the way, most folks that fail on their first attempt generally pass on a second. If you failed twice, it is a very, very low number of folks that actually fail it 3 times. Don't give up, though. Don't give up. So again, read, write, recite. This is your resource. Practice exams, Quizlet. Ask questions. Take screenshots. Ask me directly, and I'll try to help as best I can at Body Design University. We're just committed to try and help you to pass the NASM on the first attempt. You just let us know how else we can be of assistance. And it's always a pleasure doing these studies with you. We'll see you next week. Thanks.